Hi everyone, here is Tatiana Bazzichelli, the director of the Disruption Network Lab. And as usual, we are here at the Kunstquartier Bethanien for the conference of the Disruption Network Lab. This is our conference number 32. And I'm also very proud to say that this conference signs the beginning of our jubileum. So this year, actually, we celebrate 10 years of the Disruption Network Lab. And we are going to do a big conference end of November, in which we will do something bigger related to this anniversary. And I really want to thank the team of the Disruption Network Lab, all the people that have been working with me for the past 10 years, because I think it's also thanks to all of them that we reached this moment. And so I will also ask all of you here to do a big applause to the team of the Disruption Lab and 10 years. And this conference is under the title Beyond Control, Resisting Digital Oppression and Authoritarianism. It's very important to be able to speak about these topics today, especially because this is our duty as people that are working with culture and art, and also that try to speak out when we have to expose a system of wrongdoing and even war crimes. The Disruption Network Lab, we have been working for 10 years also with whistleblowers, especially with war whistleblowers, and it's very important that we keep doing our work, even if we are becoming more and more in a difficult situation, even to be able to speak. And this conference relates to the discourse of digital authoritarianism. That is an interesting concept that was initially suggested me by the team of Global Voices, that I also want to thank a lot. And is interesting because encompasses two very important aspects. One aspect is related to the discourse of information warfare and the fact that the digital tools could also be used to target people, especially minority, and oppress people that have a different kind of opinion and also are trying to work for activism and social justice. And at the same time, we also know that digital authoritarianism connects with the discourse of misinformation and also the discourse of propaganda that often happens in conflicts and in wars. So these events brings together these two aspects. From one side, to try to fight and focus and understand hate online, and trying to understand also how we can respond to it in a positive way by also making our rights go ahead. And at the second time, the second aspect is that we want to focus also on strategies to circumvent restricted access to communication, and also targeting of people that express their dissent, even journalists or activists or people at risk. And this is something that we will also focus on the panel today. First of all, also I want to say that despite we are speaking about very difficult topics, what we are trying to do at the Disruption Lab is also to empower each other. And because of that, I really want to thank our audience, both online and also here in Berlin, because I can say that for these past 10 years, many people have been coming here, you have been always present, and we have been discussing these difficult topics together, trying to empower each other. And I hope that we will keep doing also today and in the next conferences to come. So I also want to welcome our audience online, And I want to remind that we are on streaming as well. I want to thank Ranav Adhikari and the Boiling Head Media for their fantastic work all the time with our streaming, and tell the people that are following remotely that we have a chat. So you can use the chat as well to ask questions to our speakers. You can do during the panels. We have our great moderator, Agnese Trocchi, that is getting your questions, and then we can ask the question directly to the panelists. So just remember that. And the program of today consists of the keynote and the panel. The keynote will start immediately after my introduction, and I'm very glad to have with us Jihad Van Puymbroeck, that will tell her story to justice to us. And the panel is entitled Unveiling the Depths of Online Racism. And she is one of the civil parties in the lawsuit against Schild Vrienden, that is a Flemish far-right youth movement that attacked her online. She won her case, and she will tell her story today to us. And the second panel instead focus on the discourse of Gaza, Ukraine, and Azerbaijan. And the subtitle is Challenging Network Authoritarianism. We will focus indeed on the situation of Gaza, on Ukraine and Azerbaijan, and also understand how we can circumvent, restrict access to digital infrastructure, and at the same time also understand how, despite all the very tough situation at the moment, we can also speak about empowering our action, and what can we do also in terms of activism, of network of trust, to deal with the discourse of war and the oppression that the people are suffering right now. Then we have two workshops on Sunday, one with Irma Mastenbroek, that is about community girl blocking to save the internet. And it's very nice that she's creating this idea of the girl blogging, really asking people to code with HTML and CSS, to also bypass the control of the big tech and try to restore community among each other. There are still spots available, so if you want to understand also how you create your blog playing with codes, but also not only with code, understood there's also a lot of crafting going around, then you can still subscribe. And then the second workshop is also really close to our heart, is about WikiLeaks. And you will see over there, we have a table from Berlin Support Assange. You can also, support their work buying T-shirts and the publication that they have, and most of all, also being with them every Friday at the Brandenburger tour, where they are there since 2 years to advocate for Julian Assange. And this workshop is also very important because we know there is a lot of misinformation around the case of Julian Assange. We need to reclaim agency to press freedom and also make more clarity. So we will have Raya Stutz and Claudia Desking that will be running the workshop. This will be in the afternoon on Sunday, and you can also subscribe still there. And I would like to thank our funders before we enter into the depths of the conference today. First of all, the Hauptstadt Kulturfonds, that is the Capital Culture Funds. Then the Riva and David Logan Foundation. We are also part of the New Perspective for Action, that is a project by Reimagine Europe, co-funded by the European Union. We work in cooperation with the Wow Holland Foundation and in collaboration with Global Voices. Also a big thank to our partner venue, Kunst am Kreuzberg Bethanien, and also NGBK. From this year, we will start our cooperation with NGBK, that now they moved to another venue close to Alexanderplatz, and we will run our community program there. So very happy to say, and also the first event will be the 25th of April. I will announce this at the end of today. And also thank you to our media partner, TADS, host writer, and Il Mitte, and again, our streaming partner, Boiling Head Media. We also have member programs since now some time. So if you want to become a member of the Disruption Network Club, with €50 you get for free to all our events. So it's a pretty good deal. We have already some members. You are welcome to join. And also, for the first time this year, we have a possibility of donations that will be matched. This also thanks to the Riva and David Logan Foundation. If you give a donation up to €1,000, this will be matched. So you will be able to make us give the double. So this is important to know if you want support more consistently what we do. And now I am very glad to announce our keynote. And first of all, I will introduce the wonderful moderator that we have today. And she will then introduce Jihad Van Puymbroeck, that will start the program with her speech. So I am very happy to call on stage with me Nyima Jadama, and while she comes, I will also explain you who is, and I'm very proud that she is with us today. Nyima, you can come here. So Nyima Jadama is an award-winning TV host and media trainer from the Gambia. She hosts Nyima's Bantaba and Unfiltered podcast, connecting migrants, refugees, women and diaspora groups worldwide on critical issues such as migration, integration, women's empowerment and cultural diversity. Nyima founded the Bantaba Academy for Migrants and Refugees and has received several awards for her activism and media advocacy, including the 2023 Silvio Meyer Prize from the Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg district of Berlin. She was the first refugee advisor to the German government at the high-level official meeting in Geneva in 2021. So Nyima, thank you so much for being here. Now I leave the stage to you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana, for that introduction. Good afternoon, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this conference, Beyond Control. Tatiana has already explained about the conference. Welcome to the panel, Unveiling Depths on Online Racism. As he said, my name is Nyima Jadama, and I am pleased to actually host this panel discussion with Jihad. We are actually gathered here today to confront the specter of digital authoritarianism and champion the cause of empowerment in the face of oppression. Today, we actually have the honor to shed light on a story that epitomizes the struggle against digital tyranny, a story that resonates not only in Belgium but across the globe. I am deeply privileged to introduce Jihad Puymbroeck. I hope I pronounced your name right. Jihad is actually a courageous activist whose journey stands as a testament to the resilience of human spirit in the face of relentless digital persecution. Jihad's story, though still not widely known, as I said, but it serves as a stark reminder on the insidious reach of digital authoritarianism and the profound impact it can have on individuals and communities. Jihad's unwavering commitment to anti-racism and social justice made her a target of vicious smear campaign orchestrated through online digital platforms. Her advocacy for the right of Muslim communities and her support for Palestine made her a lightning rod for hate and vitriol. Yet, in the face of such adversity, she stood firm, refusing to be silenced by the fear of intimidation. The journey towards justice, though long and arduous. For years, Jihad endured relentless harassment and defamation, orchestrated through online channels founded by a former parliamentarian, Van Langenhove. But her resilience, coupled with tireless efforts of journalists and activists, eventually led to the exposure of the truth. A truth that laid the bare depths of digital manipulations and abuse. Jihad's story began with an online attack mounted, like I said, by a former parliamentarian who also founded and led a Flemish national youth movement called Schild Vrienden. He was later sentenced to 1 year in prison for inciting violence, spreading racism, memes targeting activists from Muslim communities like Jihad, and of course denying the Holocaust. The sentence was announced last year by the Genf court in Belgium, last month, March. Today, as we gathered here to amplify Jihad's voice and her struggle, and as well we want to honor your courage, your courageous stance. Let us not forget rather the broader implications of her story. Let us recognize that her struggle is not isolated, but emblematic of larger battles against digital authoritarianism. A battle that requires all our collective resolve and solidarity. We will soon start the panel, and during the panel discussion, you will learn a lot. I would learn myself a lot as I was reading through her story, watching the video, how the whole story initiated. With her presentation, you will know more. But during the discussion after her presentation, we would also delve deep into the mechanisms of digital oppressions, detecting the ways in which it manifests in different contexts. For civilian states to algorithm bases, we will confront the stark realities of digital control and its profound impact on individuals and communities around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Jihad on stage for her keynote presentation.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Also thank you for the invitation. Today I will give a keynote about my story personally. I give it a little bit a clickbait title, sorry for that, but Unveiling the Depths of Online Racism and my story towards justice. What are the things that I'm going to talk about is, who is Schild Vrienden, Schild and Friends? Who am I? Why am I being targeted by this group? Why I became a civil party? The difficulties also of this law court system, and my strategy and the lesson learned that I had the couple of years. So who is Schild Vrienden? This far-right movement. Here is a picture of Schild Vrienden. In front you have Dries Van Langenhove, the leader of this movement. Schild Vrienden, I'm just going to start with a first fragment, a documentary, where you can get a little bit more information of Schild Vrienden.
Movements focused on identity are gaining popularity in Europe.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us!
One of the movements in Flanders is Schild Vrienden. Dries Van Langenhove is their leader.
Wie een gezond, traditioneel klassiek gezin wil stichten, die wordt vandaag bekeken als een freak.
Joining me is Dries.
Publicly, they talk about family values, the importance of Flemish identity, and offering a positive alternative to so-called political correctness.
Wees de beste versie van uzelf, want alleen zo zullen we Vlaanderen redden. Dank u wel.
But on secret fora and chat rooms, we read totally different things. Racism, Nazi glorification and denigrating comments about women and minorities. We're trying to find out who is the real Schild Vrienden.
so like I said, who is Schild Vrienden really? At the outside, they show themselves as a very collective group, youngsters who collecting dirt on the streets and who want to identify the Flemish identity because it's a Flemish movement. But VRT is the Flemish Public Broadcast, reveals the racism and sexism in this right-wing group. So they had an anonymous Discord group where they found, infiltrated in this online Discord group, and they found secret activities. They found how they want to show at the outside world a misleading image of themselves. You can see also at the pictures they are always wearing a costume, very like polite youngsters, but in reality it was not that. If you look deeper into this anonymous Discord group, you also saw in the documentary the pictures and the memes they made. It was an anonymous Discord group. You discover a close network where racism and sexism is very alive in these groups. And they uncovered the racist, sexist, and also anti-Semitic face of this right-wing group. But at the first time, it was just shown as a movement, and then after this documentary came on television, it was very shocking to see the real face of that group. So in 2018, this documentary came on television because VRT infiltrated in this Discord groups. And after that documentary, they launched an investigation. It was in 2018, and the investigation lasted until 2022 because there was a lot of information to dig in and to discover what they were really talking about. So they investigated more than 17,000 messages to see what is happening in those Discord groups. It's not only about memes or freedom of speech, what is really going on in these Discord groups and what is very violence to the outside world. And of the 70,000 messages, there were like mostly 6,000 messages were analyzed linguistically then as racist, sexist, and verbally aggressive according to this analysis. It was the start of a 6 years long lawsuit because it was then just this year that he got convicted. So I'm not giving you like the whole story and then the end, the result, but at the end he got convicted, but it took a long way also for me to have this very positive end result. So who is Dries Van Langenhove? He is the leader of that group. He's also involved in an international far-right network. So maybe if you see German far-right groups, he can also be there as one of the voices. But he is the leader of the right-wing group, and also about the linguistic analysis, they show that he was the leader, and he also instigated that his members of his group, they were like with 500 members, made those memes, digged into the private life of people to destroy them. So he was the one also in the investigation. They say we associated a lot of things that comes by him, and he took the crown within these messages. Dries Van Langenhove always denied it until now. So he got convicted, but he still, it's very known with far-right people or movements or political parties. He still denied it, and he also got confronted with these memes. And I'm going to show you a fragment of it.
How far is Schild Vrienden willing to go? Posts in recent weeks show that a member has made a shiv shaped like the group's logo. Over the past 18 months, Van Langenhove has advised everyone to learn to use guns. Again, someone says it's time for a war between the races. Though he did add a smiley. Another member displays his weapons on the Flemish lion and says he's ready to fight. In Romania, members practice with automatic weapons at the shooting range. They like posing with guns for photos. Aside from target practice, which is fine, Van Langenhove denies everything and says someone's posting in his name on Discord.
Iemand zegt, totally ready, en stalt zijn wapens uit op de Vlaamse leeuw.
U mag voorbeelden blijven aanhalen. Sorry, dat werkt gewoon niet. U kan al die afbeeldingen gewoon online vinden of zelfs gewoon zelf maken. En ik zie dat er iemand blijkbaar gewoon mijn profielfoto van Twitter heeft gepakt, dat erop geplakt heeft en mijn voornaam heeft geplakt en daar dan edgy uitspraken bij doet die niet van mij zijn.
Toon het mij dat jij het niet bent.
Ik kan er echt gewoon zelf maken, hoor.
Maar toon mij dat jij het niet bent in de Discord-groep.
En die kan ik hier niet open doen, daarvoor heb ik mijn computer nodig.
Dat is een mobiele app, dat kan je perfect op je telefoon bekijken. Dus ik vraag nogmaals, waar staat Schild Vrienden nu voor?
En dat heb ik toch al gezegd. Schild Vrienden wil een positieve mentaliteitswijziging teweegbrengen bij de Vlaamse jeugd tot burgers die ten dienste staan van de Vlaamse identiteit en van de Europese cultuur. En die dingen die je hier nu afhaalt van internet, die gaan daar niets aan veranderen.
Screenshots show that the person in the group really is Dries. He talks about when our interview will be, and only he knows that. Another member waiting outside says the interview is still underway. What now? Dries Van Langenhove said the time will come when a golden dawn will cleanse shops of halal and other multicultural products. Golden Dawn refers to the extreme right-wing multinationalistic party in Greece, whose members, one a member of parliament, have been convicted of violence. Who is Schild Vrienden really? Where is this going?
Yeah, so it's my apologies that I didn't give a disclaimer because they are very shocking images also. Where is it going? You can see the full documentary is still online. It's a it's a documentary of 1 hour when they go in depth. We will share the link afterwards, but it's from the Flemish Public Broadcast. But you can see he when he got confronted in 2018, he still denied it, but all the proof was already there. And after the investigation in 2018, he got charged and with 4 prosections. The first one is discrimination, segregation, hatred and violence on racism and xenophobia. The second one is spreading ideas based on hatred and racial hatred. The third one is approving the genocide during World War II and anti-negationism law. And the last one also the violation of the weapon laws because he had also a website where he sells pepper spray and, like you see in the pictures, things for boxing and so on. So these were the charges the prosecution made those charges. And then the lawsuit started. But in 2018, I have to stand there. Where is Schild Vrienden now? It's very ironically, but maybe also not shocking in the climate we are living right now, and also in Belgium. In 2019, so 1 year after this documentary, he became a parliament member at Vlaams Belang. So Vlaams Belang is a far-right movement in Flanders, so the Flemish-speaking part of Belgium, where he became an independent parliament at the parliament at Vlaams Belang. And in Belgium, you have a law when you become a member of the parliament, you have parliamentary immunity. I don't know how it's in Germany, but his parliamentary immunity has to be lifted. It's very important to have also this context because it became not only a lawsuit for justice, but also a political lawsuit, especially for civil society and civil society organizations. It was very important to get him prosecuted. And who am I? What am I doing in this Schild Vrienden story and saga? I try to give a summary why I was attacked by Schild Vrienden. So here you have like a little pictures of me. I was 16, 17 years old when I started activism, so I started organizing pro-Palestinian manifestations. I was very in the public opinion, giving my voice as a young girl who wants to give her voice around the topic of racism, discrimination. I also was a member of the Youth Flemish Council, so I had a lot of conversations with ministers, political parties, so I give policy advice as a youngster around these topics. And I also did an internship at the parliament, at the left Green party, where I was studying political communication. I started an internship just to know more about how politics works. So I did an internship. And I was also, I'm still someone who talks, gives keynotes on the topics of discrimination, anti-racism, equality. And also something interesting, it's in Dutch, my apology, but I will translate it. Here I was, you can also see on the profile picture, I was very young. I was 16 years old when an advice came out of the Flemish Youth Council about refugees, and I tagged the minister of then, the minister of asylum, the Ministry of Asylum and about refugees, and I tweeted and tagged him, and I said, this is an advice for you, read it. And he was a minister of the right, conservative political party, and he tweeted back, and he said, yeah, you are a member of the Flemish Youth Council, but you are tweeting under the name Jihad, like he was assuming that it was not my real name. And that became a big thing also in the media. So I was just finishing my exam, I was sleeping, and then my phone blew up because how does this minister attacking a young girl just because it's her name? He was not known of it, he was not aware of it. So also in the media they talked a lot about my name, where it came from. So from then I was already seen by Schild Vrienden. So it's very interesting to see. I am telling this, some things I knew after the investigation, some things I saw, but I was not sure what is really happening, what is really going on. So why did I become a civil party then? Here we have, how did it all started? How does this, because I became a civil party, because I started an online hate orchestrated campaign against me. So in 2018, I started to work at the Flemish Public Broadcast, and I don't know how it's here in Germany, but the VRT is very like a big thing if you work there. There are a big media company, of course, but they are the Flemish Public Broadcast. They get money from the government, so being neutral, being objective is very important. But I was already an activist, giving my voice, my public opinion, and I had also a lot of critique to the media, but I was like, I'm giving a lot of critique to the media, let's work in the media to see how it really works. So at 2018, I started to work, I got a job, and I mentioned it on Twitter, very proud, hey, I'm working now at VRT News as a social media manager, hit me up if you have some news or so on. So I posted it on Twitter, and then Dries Van Langenhove at that time retweeted it and said, hey, from now on, the news will be made by Jihad. He didn't mention my last name, it was on purpose. And it's someone who in the past didn't acknowledge the Flemish culture. So very interesting to see, he used something that I knew already. I had a conversation with him or a reaction on Facebook pages, I don't know where it was, with other members of Schild Vrienden, where I actually said, what is the Flemish culture actually? I just did ask the question, and he used it to say, she said that the Flemish culture don't exist. Then on their page, publicly, on their Facebook page, they made a post about me saying, yeah, she is going to work for VRT News, from now on the news will be made by her. And actually just giving my LinkedIn page, everything they knew, I was working at an internship, I was an activist, and so on and so on. Everything you can find publicly, they used it, but you can see how they framed it. It's not on purpose. They used a picture with next to me a friend with a hijab on, and on the right side you can find the minister. And then she was the Minister of Work. So they use it to give it more a frame of VRT News will not be neutral anymore. Get her fired. And it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that. It was publicly, but they also managed to dig into my past. So what did they do? They were looking at my tweets and were looking Palestine, Jews, Israel. Yes, we found it. She is anti-Semitic. If you found something about Palestine, you're anti-Semitic. So they made a collage of all my tweets, and it was tweets when I was 15 or 16 years old. And they said, look at this woman. She is now working at VRT News. She is anti-Semitic. She is pro-Palestine. She talks about other parliament ministers, because I was also very vocal to right-wing parties and their policy making. And from still now on, they are using this collage. So they collage, and these tweets are still going viral. They are still using it. I'm like, okay, been there, done that. But at that time, it was very shocking to me to see that how far they went to look at, maybe when you were very young, you said it in the cafe, but now I just drop it on Twitter, and they used it. I will not show all the tweets because I don't want to give it a platform, but just to know what was happening at that time. Here you can see is from the Standard. The Standard is a Flemish newspaper. They made an analysis of this thing that happened to me. And that was for me the first red flag that they were orchestrating a campaign, an online hate, racist campaign against me. Here you can see in 1 week how many tweets they were around me and around my case. Because on Monday I announced that I'm going to work for VRT News, and then there were a lot of tweets. And then midweek, a journalist started the hashtag Je suis Jihad Van Puymbroeck to support me. But in total, there were mostly 10,000 tweets about what was happening, the online campaign that they already started. Things got a lot viral. The negative tweets, of course, went viral. And then it started positive with congratulations, but then it went all negative because of what they were doing and trying to do. And then it went silent. So they actually did what they wanted to do. The strategy that they tried to do is silence people and make them, that's a way of trolling, silence people. And I went silent. I was working as a very young woman at VRT News, and my boss told me, just focus on your job. We are still supporting you. I didn't show it here, but actually, a journalist made an article with the title, Why Jihad Van Puymbroeck Can Work at VRT News. So they use even the frame of them to show them this is why she can work, actually. And I never publicly gave a reaction. So at that time, I said I'm going to be silent, focusing on my job, and just let it pass. At that time, I didn't know it was a coping way of what was happening to me. Then fast forward to 2018. So in January 2018, I started to work there. And in 2018, September, the documentary came out. So for me, it was a very, very weird thing to see this documentary. So because it was for me like, oh my God, it's not between my 2 ears. It's actually also happened to me. But I was not aware of it, that this campaign started at that time. But I became silent, and I was also silent for 2 years. The documentary came online, and I didn't know what I needed to do. And I stayed silent the years after. So it was very difficult for me to come out with my story, because I knew what happened. But I worked for 2 years at VRT News, and I never told anyone what am I going to do with this, in a justice kind of way. So I didn't immediately become a civil party at that time. So when the documentary came out, I was just doing some research. Okay, how can I do something, because what was happened was not normal. It was very an orchestrated online hate campaign, a racism campaign, and it was because I am a Muslim woman, a woman with migration background, a woman of color, and that's the reason why I also got attacked. So it's not from the blue they chose someone who is working at that time to attack me. It was with a vicious, malicious reason that they attacked me, and I contacted UNIA. UNIA is an independent public institution that fights discrimination, just to ask what can I do to defend myself, because what happened is not normal. They helped me with the legal procedures, and then I had access to the investigation file. So the investigation was already started, and I had access to the investigation file, and in the investigation file, that was the moment where my mouth really opened up, of my eyes opened up actually. There was a file with the name Jihad Van, and it was a map on the server with 200 pages of conversations about me. So it was an anonymous Discord group. Within this anonymous Discord group, there was a group under it with 500 members, and all conversation, how they can destroy me, how they can fire me. So I wrote all the process and how this all happened to me when I started to work. So find her tweets, make her memes, start an email to fire her. Her father is a Belgian, but he converted to Islam. So everything they wanted to know about me was discussed there. And from that moment, I decided, okay, now I need to be a civil party because I want him to get convicted. So just to give like a little date, because it's a lot of information, I know. So in 2018, I became an employment at VRT NWS, and documentaries came out and investigation started. In 2018, I had access to the investigation, but at the same time, Dries Van Langenhove became member of the parliament. For me, it was also the reason why I became silent, because I was going to give a lawsuit against someone who is in the parliament, and I am just a woman, was very vocal and so on. But for me, it was very scary to see the media using me versus Dries Van Langenhove. The things were not equal. And in February 2020, I became a civil party. So it took me a long time to decide when I'm going to being a civil party or not. And from then on, I decided remaining silent is not an option. In December 2021, I publicly announced that I'm a civil party. And I did it very specifically with a podcast, Zwijgen is geen optie, silence is not an option, because I didn't want to use mainstream media to give my story, because I didn't trust them at that time, how they will use my story. So here I announced that I'm a civil party, and from there on, the public way of announcing this court case started. What are the difficulties of this this lawsuit? Here you have an example for a meme that they used, and they are still using it and bringing it. The criminal trial is very an obstruction carousel. I already told you 6 years. It took us 6 years to get him convicted, but Dries Van Langenhove, and also you can see here other members of Schild Vrienden, so they were with 500, but public prosecution chose 6 or 7 members also to be convicted. But they use very kind of tactics, like you see at what Trump's using to delay all these court cases, and they even talked about illegal judges. So the judges are illegal. They are left, right, they are left judges, they are not neutral, and so on. And also, because that's why I mentioned his parliamentary immunity was not legally waived for my case. So what the lower court said, his parliament immunity was still on for me personally. So they actually told me you can't be a civil party because his parliament immunity was still on. So I had to appeal it to eventually become a civil party. But that's appealing, and that's also the biggest mindfuck of all this lawsuit this process I went through. I had to pay 8,000 euros to all these members of Schild Vrienden, and also Dries Van Langenhove. Me as a victim, as a target, had to pay 8,000 euros because, that's how law system works. Law system is also, I have a lot of questions about the law system. Now I'm an expert of this topic. My lawyer said it. But I had to pay 8,000 euros because at the lower court I lost being a civil party. So they say, yeah, you did an appeal, so now you have to pay because you lost. So me as a victim had to pay 8,000 euros, and some civil parties started a fundraising. Here you can see Jihad Van Puymbroeck and her gang. I used the word haar bende, her gang, because Dries Van Langenhove tweeted about me. Yeah, now Jihad Van Puymbroeck and her gang has to pay. Ha ha ha, I won. But I used his words to give my own narrative on it. And in less than 24 hours, I got the money, luckily. And at that time, journalists and also Dries Van Langenhove knew, okay, she has a lot of people around her because in less than 24 hours, she got 8,000 and even more. We need to get still an eye on her. Of course, a lot of fake news. There was a lot of fake news going on about me as a civil party. Dries Van Langenhove had a lot of fake news about this lawsuit. He kept targeting me. So here we have a screenshot of his Telegram group where he said, yeah, at the same time, I was also a co-president of an anti-racist organization. And he said, look how much money she gets as a president, but I'm doing it at free as a volunteer. But he was still targeting me, even when the lawsuit was started, even when I became a civil party. It was not that he got scared. That's very known with far-right people and narcissist people. They keep still targeting me. And of course, that's something that's not being highlighted a lot. It was a racism trauma for me. At that time, when it happened in 2018, I was like, okay, I'm just going to focus on my job and it will all be over. But it took me a while to search for physical help, psychological help. And the therapist specialized in racism worked with me. And at the same time, she mentioned you have a racism trauma, PTSD, but then focused on racism. And she also used that word, including in the court report. Another difficulty is I was not the only civil party. There were also other civil parties, of course. We were 5 in total, but I am the only one who has been personally attacked and affected by Dries Van Langenhove and Schild Vrienden. There were 2 human rights organizations who are doing it for the common, because it's a mission and their vision and to have a president on it. The University of Ghent, because Dries Van Langenhove was also a student at the university and a representative of the university, and 1 honorary magistrate, here you can see him on the picture, whose parents were in a concentration camp, and after the documentary went online, he went immediately to the court, to the police, to make himself a civil party. But I had a lot. Henry Heijmans is a very important person in my process because he was also a judge in the highest court of Belgium, and now he was, of course, not anymore, but he knew a lot how the system works. And despite what to achieve, we want the same goal. We want to have Dries Van Langenhove convicted. It was not always easy to work well together, because for me personally, I already worked 10 years about anti-racism on a structural level. So I give policy organized manifestation. But at the first time, it was me personally that got attacked. So it was difficult to give, at the same time, advice to these organizations, but at the same time also want to focus on my strategy and not always to find that we cannot always work together. What was my strategy and the lessons? Here you see a picture where I discussed with my lawyer. Maybe also important, just a side note, my lawyer is also from Moroccan migration background. Also Dries Van Langenhove targeted him. He also defended some serious terrorist people. So they all used in the narrative like her lawyer is a Moroccan man who defended terrorists and so on and so on. So it was very vicious to see how this lawsuit also attacked other people. The strategy, as you know, or maybe know from the beginning, there was no strategy at first time. I thought I had to do this on my own because I was very ashamed of what happened. That's also the reason why still even I have a lot of activists around me. I know a lot of organizations, but everyone was shocked. How do you come 4 years after what happened to us and saying that you are part of this very milestone lawsuit, that you are part of it? It's very important work and you can't do it by your own. But at that time, I thought I have to do it on my own. Defining my own narrative was very important. As someone who already worked at the media, I saw the frames and the narrative they use. So for me, it was very important that if I'm going to come publicly with this, what happened, I need to show my voice at my way and on my way. So I used my own social media channels I used for the podcast that I showed you previously. And I used anti-racist platforms where I communicated about the case. It was very at the last that I did an interview with journalists, but even that was not a nice experience because journalists really want to focus on the trauma porn and not on the actually thing that happens, on the impact that it has on our society, and focusing more on are you okay and how it's going? And it's very good that they ask these questions, but they are not focusing on the very impact that this lawsuit has on our society. Eventually, I surrounded myself with activists and anti-racist civil societies who were very good at communication organizations. So for me, they saw the civil organizations, especially on anti-racism, and saw, okay, this lawsuit is very historical, very important for minorities. We need to work together to organize, so they launched a petition. Here you can see it. I am with solidarity with targets of Schild Vrienden. Very important because I'm also very focused on language. They never used the word victims. They used the word doelwitten or targets because we especially got targeted for our minority background or other identity things. So we work together. That's the other strategy. This working on anti-racism is not only the work of anti-racist organizations. So we work together with LGBTQ movements, Jewish movements, feminist movements. So they all work together to organize the petition, to organize what was happening and the communication about the lawsuit, because there was a lot of fake news around it. And this was very interesting to see that actually it was the first time that in civil society organizations in Belgium worked together because they all got affected by Schild Vrienden. Because I see anti-racism, especially traditional organizations, are like, yeah, it's very difficult to work on that, and it's very difficult because they have no knowledge about it, but we were all targets of Schild Vrienden. Here you have an action because when the lawsuit started, they did an action outside the court building where they had like the pamphlets with who is targeted, and there's a lot of people who got targeted. So I am personally one of the people who got targeted, as of my minority background, as a Muslim woman, and so the different intersectionality layers. But I see that there are a lot of different other people who also got targeted, but they never became a civil party. For which reasons? Yeah, the justice system is just not easy to get your case won. So at the end, the conviction happened. Luckily, I was very shocked, actually, because after 6 years, I was not positive anymore. I was like, okay, it became business as usual. That's very weird to say. But every time I was being called to come to this court, and always they delayed it because something happened, illegal judges, they need extra investigation. And I felt that I was not being heard, but I kept doing what I was doing because I was seeing it was not only for myself. For myself, I already gave up personally to win, but I was like, okay, it's a very historical thing, and I'm not doing it for myself, but all the other people who are watching me, because after the conviction, I got a lot of messages of women of color, were saying thank you, because you did this also for us. We were scared. It's very sad to hear. I work with youngsters, and some youngsters with Muslim backgrounds say, after what has happened to you, we got scared to tweet and to give our opinion. So as you see, for me, it was a personal case, but the impact of women and youngsters, women of color, was very, was a lot. So he got 1 year effective prison. So I was never expecting it for violation of racism and negationism law. He got a total fine of 16,000 euros, 10 months of reprieve for possession of weapons, and also interesting and important, deprived of his civil rights for 10 years. That means in 10 years he can't become a parliament member anymore. But of course, he appealed. It's very important to know that in this lawsuit of 6 years, I never saw Dries Van Langenhove at the first time. He was one time there at the court, but I was not. I was on a honeymoon. Luckily, I went to my honeymoon and not to this court. I told the judge, please delay the court date. It's very important to hear my voice. But it's also a way of coping with it. I used to say this court system is this court suit of the law court. It's not only it's one thing of me. It's not only what I have. So I chose for myself because it took a lot of years also. But luckily, I was very happy that I got protected in a way that not being there because it was a circus, a lot of media, and they also decided we have to decide a new court date. So they decided a new court date, and then he was not anymore there. And at the conviction, he was also not there. There was only one person who also not being convicted because he said apology, and it was very true, his apology. But he now appealed, and at the same time, he never defended himself. So within 6 years, his lawyer only said, you are legal judges, and then he went on. So that's the only argument that we heard, and now he appealed. He said, we are not focusing on this conviction. So it's going back to a new court. We don't know the date anymore, but we don't know what's going to stay or what's going to change of the conviction. So, voila, that's my story. Sorry, I forgot one thing to say, because these are very general convictions, but he also got convicted for me personally, something that I forgot to mention. I won because the judge said there was like psychological violence against me, and the judge explicitly mentioned my name at the conviction. So that was also for me a big thing to give it a closure after 6 years, that he mentioned my name personally and acknowledge the things that happened to me.
Wow. In the struggle for people with color, we would usually say before you backlash a black woman, you ask the person first, how are you doing? How are you, Jihad?
Now I'm fine.
Thank you so very much for this detailed presentation. This is really amazing. And once again, kudos to you for your bravery, for your courage. I would just take it up from, you got to know about this in 2018, but then it started before that. Once you realize that, okay, this is something serious, or let's say first time when you heard about this, how did you feel?
Yeah, I was, in my gut feeling, I felt that when I'm going to start at VRT News, some people will criticize it, because of course I was actually very publicly, I was very open, giving my opinion. So I already mentioned to my boss, you know my history, just to be sure, but it was before the attack. So in my gut feeling, I felt something will happen, but I was very shocked when the tweets and the tweet collage and my old past was very digged in. That was for me the biggest shock. And at that time, a lot of people tell me then, we never heard you anymore. So they won actually about how they did the strategy, but it was after 4 or 5 years that I just found again how I can come up to my voice back.
You know, it's like when I watched the video, and then you know, having to know that you won the case, I was like, okay, how courageous, like going on a trial for 6 years. So I was like, if this was me, I would just pack my bags and go back to Africa. Because I mean, I'm like, I can't take this, but at least I mean, your dad is a Belgian. But then I was like, okay, she's privileged at some point. At least you're white. At least you have a Belgian background. Compared to someone totally new, let's say a black person like me, a Muslim, having a veil extra on that, and then having a not just immigrant background, but a refugee background, and being that really advocate. How would you think the case might be? Would it still be on my favor? Of course, the law would do its work, but then if you were in someone's shoe like this, how do you think the trial might go?
Actually, there is a black woman who got also attacked by Dries Van Langenhove, and she's a good friend of me. She was the first one who got her public opinion about racism. She's actually our voice in Belgium about racism. And I said to her, please also become a civil party so we can do it together. But she chose not to do it exactly for the reason she was a mom with 3 kids. She said, actually, I can't do it. I have other priorities. And for me, how did I kept up 6 years? It was for her, but also...
Yeah, and amazing. Thank you, struggle, to not just say, I'll do it for myself, but I mean, this is how I do my activism as well. I'm like, I'm not doing it for myself. Maybe I might not change anything, but for the next generation. And I think this is good that you don't do it with expectations, but you do it for the next generation, hoping that it will change something. And thank you very much for that. I mean, and I was wondering, I mean, Belgium is big, and there is a lot of activists, and of course, like, very strong and vocal people there that a whole far-right party would actually might attack or mount the same attack on what they do to you. But no, they choose you. One, because... yeah, your name Jihad. Sorry for that. But then it was also mentioned, we've all seen that. But what do you think that you were so unique that they think you, because for me, I think you were so unique, right? So what do you think that they've seen in you? I'm sure you're not the only person that I would actually tweet on Muslim communities in Palestine, but what was unique about you?
Yeah, I am very proud of my name, just to mention it, so I'm not sorry for that. I'm very proud of my name. Maybe if you don't know, my name actually means striving. I don't know the word in English, streven. If my name was Jolien Van Puymbroeck, I also thought it in my podcast, nobody will give a fuck. I will work at VRT News. I'm a white woman with the name Jolien Van Puymbroeck, and they will forget about me. But it was because of my forename, Jihad. It was because I am a Muslim woman. It was because I'm a woman of color and a migration background. And my father is also a Muslim because, I forgot, my name is Van Puymbroeck, so what is happening with your combination gives a lot of error mindfucks in some people's heads. And these were the reasons, but at the same time, it was also that I was very vocal and ambitious. You can see in when I was having the investigation files with me, and also in the documentary, you can see that they were focused on different kind of people with migration background. For example, one other person who is now the president of a political party was also being kept an eye on. So they kept an eye on different people, especially women, but also other people who they know they are very ambitious. When they are going to take a step to somewhere, we're going to attack them and destroy them. So when I decided to join VRT News, that was their time to actually use everything they already found of me.
Being unique of whatever you do, that actually made you to be targeted, right? And I was thinking, like, what is the intersection between digital oppression and the broader social justice movements? And what strategies do you believe that could actually, or that are effective in combating such targeted cases?
Yeah. So especially digital oppression, so my case, someone who started to work and they want to destroy me and got fired, it actually happened to other people before me with a migration background. So it's not a unique tactic of far right to use it. And for civil organizations, the way of justice or using the law system is one of the tactics to fight digital oppression. Other things is also, the justice system is something to use to fight racism. But like I said in my strategy, it was the first time digital oppression was focused on the intersectionality of different targets, different minorities to work together, because in civil society, organizations don't always work together, so this intersectionality. And at the same time, I see that a lot of organizations want to focus to understand them. Why are they doing this? Why are they using these tactics? But I feel it's now a waste of time to focus on them, but need to focus on the targets and how we can focus on bystanders, how to focus on strategies that they can defend themselves. So for me, that's the connection I see.
And, you know, like, you were digitally oppressed, right? And I was wondering, were there any, like, physical attacks? Was the court, or do you had any support that was like in terms of security, right? Because, I mean, if I would have the courage to say, okay, I'm going to fight this for somebody else or for the next generation, might think of like looking for securities. Did you have this privilege, or you were just doing your thing with the support of others digitally or through the court?
So my attack was mostly online. I never got, luckily, physically violence, but like I give the example of the black woman, my friend, Dalila Hermans. She got, for example, the same digital oppression, and she got cameras on her front door because her address was online. So for me personally, I had the luck, but I remember when I announced that I became a civil party, it was in Corona, and I was very happy that I had a mask. Maybe I was the only one who was happy at that time, wearing a mask, but I was not being recognized. So I felt a little bit afraid, and I had luckily a network around me that could protect me. Yeah.
Could you tell us maybe specific challenges that you actually faced during this digital oppression that you were going through?
What I was going through? Or?
If there were specific challenges that you were facing.
The first challenge is I was working at a new job and I got attacked and my tweets got online, coping in a work floor that it's mostly white and very focusing on hierarchy, and I was just the new one. So that was the first challenge. I felt I was in a golden cage. The other challenge was, of course, how to tell my personal story and at the same time show what the big structural level is, because I feel that my personal story is like, you personally had it, so I'm sorry for you, but it won't happen again. No, it will still happen at other people because it's a structural way of tactics they use, and we need to stop it. So that was like the difficulty that I had. The other ones were, of course, the time and the energy to always be popped up a letter and to be again there and always see that how law system is not very helpful to victims, because you have to know how the system works.
Apropos, like telling your own story, how was it? Why do you think it's for the first time you actually telling your story publicly? Why do you think it's the right time to do this now?
For now?
Yeah. You decided, okay, I wait till the verdict is done, then I know the outcome. Would you have still tell your story if you had lost?
Yeah. So it happened in 2018, but it was only until 2022, actually, that I told my story. So it took me a while. I think being vulnerable, at first, I thought it was a weak strength, it was a weakness, but now I felt that it's very strong, that I not being vulnerable, but at the same time telling my story. So, and I also, after that, when my therapist told me I have a racism trauma, talking about it was very difficult. So at the first time I told it for my new employees, it's not VRT News, I changed my work. Telling them to other people, to my friends activists, I got panic attacks. So I had to be very prepared on a mentally level to tell it, but also on a strategy level. Okay, I'm gonna tell it now, how I'm gonna organize myself. So I need to always be 2 steps before Dries Van Langenhove, because he was now a member of a parliament. So even in the parliament, his political party, asked questions about me. So parliamentary questions. Just for example, I work in another workplace. Okay, why is she working there? So they still kept using their power to keep targeting me. Yeah.
The role of journalists and, of course, the media in hold was also as well a crucial role that actually plays in your case. And I was wondering if you could tell us, like, how can media literacy and responsible reporting contribute to countering digital manipulation and disinformation campaigns?
Yeah, for me, media won't help at those things. They did this documentary, and it was very good, but they also got a lot of critique. You made Schild Vrienden bigger. Even for the lawsuit, they say you made Schild Vrienden bigger, but it was very important work.
But the documentary was where you were like, here is the red flag.
Yeah, here is the red. Yeah, I already had some red flags, but for me it was then the biggest eye opener. But I see that media now is not using their platform to cover digital oppression, to cover far right. They even give it more a platform. It's even a revenue model to using clickbaits to give them a platform, especially in Belgium and the Flemish Public Broadcast. They say, yeah, we need to give a voice to left and right, and then we are neutral. So they don't see what the impact is of far right. And how I think media can use how to fight digital oppression is to moderate their online reactions, for example. I worked for social media. I saw that people don't read the article. They just have like, refugees, okay, attack. Muslims, okay, attack. And they don't moderate the online hate. So that's a first important thing. Get your moderation straight and use moderation and rules to that, and at the same time, don't give a platform to far right, because you are giving, and you are even, media is even using the words of far right. That's also very problematic. Don't use the words and the narrative of far right, but because that is what's now happening in Belgium.
So, we talk about the media. If you talk about the media, of course, we look at policymakers and tech companies, because at some point it's all part of like the digital platforms, all such campaigns and whatever is happening across the world. I was thinking, how do you think policymakers and tech companies and of course journalists could actually work together to address proliferations of hate speech and extremist content online?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. There was an anti-racist organization, Kif, who also did the research on online hate of women of color in Belgium, and at the end they made a policy advice for different stakeholders. And I also worked on this report. The first thing is, social media companies have a responsibility. Their revenue model is also focusing on far right and online hate. So policymakers can actually make laws and policy making about how the social media companies use their platform. The other thing is how can victims of digital oppression and online racism protect themselves. It's not easy as an individual. So how is the law system protecting and helping civil victims? And also, policymakers have a very important way of how they even exaggerate online hate sometimes. So they sometimes give, not sometimes, they always give two groups against each other to use it and to give more online hate, and that's something very toxic that's happening. And the other thing that I see is very important is the focusing on bystanders. I see that if you check online racism and online hate, you see a lot of reactions of far-right racist people, but never someone who reacts and say, okay, this is not okay, this is racist. And because people also are scared, but the number of how bigger, they just need to start one person and then others will also mention. So I always tell to other, especially white people, please react, because it's easier that you will react on online racism than that me as a minority or a woman of color, or a people of color, react, because then we will also be attacked even more.
I mean, your resilience in the face of adversity is actually truly remarkable. And one of, I don't know if I should call that strategy, that you use was being silent, right? And mostly it said that silence is the best weapon to achieve so many things. And also maybe to confuse your enemy, because he or she might not know where you're heading to. Can you share with us some of the insights on the strategies that you actually use that really help you to get to where, or to what we're talking about today?
Yeah. So yeah, the strategy to be silent was not a strategy for me personally, because it was a goal of this campaign to make me silent. So eventually their goal was, they won by this tactic. Yeah, my strategy was mostly, at the first time when I see how I coped with it, I was very long silence, because I was just searching how I'm going to tell it to in private life, but also in my activist life. So a colleague of me said, okay, Jihad, you are a civil party, you need to give us orders to tell us what we need to do. And I know you are personally attacked, I know you have a lot of strategy things in mind, but just tell us what to do so we can be around you and organize this petition, organize this events outside the court building, do this fundraising. At first I thought I need to do this on my own because I am a civil party, but then I got connected with a lot of activists, civil organizations. For example, there was a WhatsApp group where activists were searching at the online hate and the fake news that was around this case, and always to debunk this fake news and have these reactions reported. So this is how I see that what was really working, because they focus on the organization, but at the same time also on the communication. What is the narrative? What are the words that I need to use to give my story a good platform? With who am I going to talk? At the podcast, for example, was also thanks to another activist who told me use this platform. But I was also very lucky. I already had a network. I was already an activist. I was also already in those organizations.
So we have like less than 5 minutes to wrap up, but you can already prepare your questions. We have 2-3 more questions to go. So just prepare it. We will come back to you. So Jihad, looking ahead, what do you envision as the next steps in the ongoing struggle against digital authoritarianism, and how can individuals and communities support such an effort?
Yes, so the conviction is a very important thing in digital oppression. I feel that after that, people will think twice to give online hate reactions. For example, after the conviction, just a woman with 2 kids, a public profile, sent me a message saying some hateful messages again, and I told her, thank you, I will send it to my lawyer and the police, and she immediately erased her reaction. So this is something that people can use, especially in Belgium then. We can use it to protect ourselves more and to say, this is the end, we go not further anymore, we have a law system. And the other things is, how can we each other protect ourselves? What are the things of the strategy? What are the environments we go through in online systems. But I think I already told you what I said before. The bystanders is very important. But at the same time, also, how can we use social media platforms? For example, my Twitter page. I have a lot of things where I can hide all the reactions to protect myself personally. So there are a lot of different kind of tactics to work on it. And especially for digital oppression, I feel that the justice system is a one way, but we have also our policy makers. We have elections in 2 months, how political parties are going to use it and how protect us at the same time. And civil organizations, I feel that activists now see the impact of digital oppression and are now thinking about tactics and strategies.
And to my second to last question, so 2 minutes. So, in light of recent developments in your case, what message do you hope to convey to other activists who may be facing similar challenges in their fight for justice and equality?
Yeah, the first thing is I am not a very good motivational speaker, so I will say it's normal that you are tired. I'm tired too. So that's, and I feel that it took me a while to say that this battle, I couldn't do this on my own, so that will be the most important thing. Don't do it on your own. It's very okay to search for help in activist network, help in psychological help, and to surround yourself with others and to say, let's do it together to change some things and to have an impact on our society.
You said you were tired. I often say I am tired, but don't give up. Just to give one example, last year on the street I met a guy, a white person. I was rushing, and the guy just split on me and was like, "You black Muslim, geh zurück," like in German, go back to your country. And I was shocked, stunned, and I couldn't just say anything. You know, I was like, okay. So then there was a guy beside me. He was like, "I saw what happened. Do you know the register teller? You know you can report this case and so on." I'm like, "They're colleagues. I work with them." And he was like, "Yeah, let's document this." I'm like, "I don't know you, but I am tired." And for me, it was a decision to say, I am tired of all those racial attacks personally, especially on the street. I'm like, the only thing I could take in Germany now, I think, is just the bureaucracy, dealing with papers and laws and so on, but not on personal and so on. So don't give up. You can be tired, but keep going. Finally, my last question, what advice would you give to policymakers, activists, and ordinary citizens who are committed to challenging digital authoritarianism and promoting a more equitable and just society?
I think the most important advice is to destroy far right is not using the words of far right, because you are doing the same.
Okay, are you optimistic of the future or are you afraid?
That's a good question. Yeah, we have elections in 2 months, and the far right political party is a very big one in the polls. I don't know yet. I feel very. For me personally, I'm focused on my environment and the change that I want to make there, and I'm not focusing on understanding why people are far right or racism, because it's a waste of my time.
Wow. Okay. Actually, not just beat the far right, but I think it's also scary. Look, watching this video, they're young people. So when I watched it, I'm like, oh, I thought racism is really huge in Germany. Especially last year, there was this Vox Pop on Europe, and Germany turns out to be like #1. And I was like, okay. But then when I watched this video, I'm like, oh, okay, there is more pepper in Belgium than in Germany. So
yeah, just to add, it's not about, because I hear a lot of it's a freedom of speech and they're just memes. The documentary shows when if this documentary wasn't there, where was it going to end? It will be actually using physical violence. They had weapons. They were doing weapon camps in Hungary, for example. So we didn't know where it was going to end. So the racist attacks on a physical level is actually a very dangerous way. There was an example last week, an article in Belgium, where a journalist went to the TikTok algorithm and being a far-right youngster of 15 years old. And at 1 week, he was already in a Telegram group with other youngsters talking about far-right and using violence and so on. So it's very not in 2018 happening, it's still happening. It's only now that Schild Vrienden doesn't exist anymore because they got exposed, but it's still going on, of course.
Thank you very much. We will now take questions. So before we take questions, I hope that your story would not just motivate, but it will make a huge impact, not just in Belgium, but across the whole world. Looking at the verdict that we've all witnessed last month, I think the justice is, how would you call it? I don't know if I should use the word fair, but there is hope. So we will take questions on that note. So I saw a hand, one.
Okay, we just start with the online question first, here from the background, because I think it's quite related to, where you ended. So the question is, what do you make of the political situation in Belgium today and in regards to the upcoming election? And it's also coming from our past speakers, so...
Can you repeat the question?
What do you make of the political situation in Belgium today and all this in regards to the upcoming election? So you touched upon it, but
Yeah, so after the conviction, there were a lot of a lot of articles and analysis. Did Schild Vrienden now won or did they lose because they got convicted? The reason that they get an effective prison is a very important win. In the political situation, I felt disappointed that political parties were now very silent. Only left parties give a reaction. And when the documentary came online, every political party was vocal, but now they were silent because they know the power of far right, and there are elections, of course, so they won't lose voters who maybe will vote for them and are also a little bit racist or just racist a lot. I see a shift of how our law system actually works on anti-racism. So on the interpersonal level, I see a shift of people who are now using this as fighting online hate. But the political situation, I feel Vlaams Belang has still a lot of people around them. And Dries Van Langenhove is not a parliament member anymore. It's also strategy-wise because Vlaams Belang wants to be in the government, and if they have a convicted person in their party, they won't be a government. But the right conservative political party, they got a lot of questions. What are you going to do with the far right? What are your opinion about Dries Van Langenhove? They have to show their true colors. So that is also what I see. They have to tell explicitly they don't want to work with far right. And if you don't tell it, actually you are saying you want to work with them.
Do we have another question online first? If not,
Sorry, thanks for an excellent presentation and congratulations on winning the case. My question is about the social media platforms. While all of this was going on, clearly you were targeted online. Whether you noticed or whether you actually reached out to any of the platforms where a lot of this harassment was taking place, and whether the content that was put out was taken down, and how quickly, if any, of a reaction you received from the platforms.
So I didn't contact the platforms. I did when the tweets. That's not something that I told. When this tweet collage of me went viral with all my tweets about Palestine and that I'm anti-Semitic and so on, I had a panic reaction and I deleted all my tweets, so nobody would find it anymore. And I reported a lot of tweets at that time, and I always got the reaction back then on Twitter that it's not violent with the rules are not violence and so on. So even anonymous accounts could still going viral. So I felt that social media platforms didn't protect me at all. They even made it even worse because the tweets are still going on. We still report now in numerous people because I have a WhatsApp group, so everyone will do the same effort at once. But I don't see a change. The only thing that I changed is how now X can filter some reactions, so I don't see everything anymore. I don't see the very, very racist things anymore, yeah, okay. But it's still on the platform, of course.
Thank you, both of you. Jihad, I'm most interested, like you've talked a lot about the policy side in Belgium, but I'm also interested in the education side. Like, how would you assess the progress that you could tell us a little about before and after you won the case?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Also, education. I feel after the documentary, a lot of schools use this documentary to talk about the impact of far right, and we also have a civil organization who works on knowledge of using media and online media. So they give a lot of workshops to youngsters to use how to use online media, how to react on online hate. And after I won the case, I got a lot of questions of schools to tell my story, but at the same time also to give advice to youngsters how they can cope with online hate. Not in the way they got attacked by online hate, but how to react on online hate. Because you hear a lot of things like, just ignore it, just ignore it and just hide it. But there are different kind of tactics to go on with online hate, and ignore it is not the right, it can be the right tactic, but you have different kind of ways to react on online hate. The other thing on education is a lot of now different civil organizations are now organizing workshops to people from everywhere, civil people, to how can we react on online hate, how can we protect ourselves on online hate, what are the tactics that are used to. So they give the knowledge with this court case, of course, in the background to give people more of like tips and tricks to use it on their platforms. So there is a shift, but yeah, you can give a lot of policy to schools and to teachers, but it took also a lot of time to change that.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I wanted to ask, after all the 6 years and everything you've kind of been through also personally, what you think has changed for you? Have you noticed that you've changed, or your career ideas, or how you use your public voice?
Yeah, for me, of course, it changed a lot when I started it and when it ended. It's not finished, still not finished. It's very weird to, my friends tell me, you will be in the historical books of everything that you're now doing. It's very weird to hear that, because I'm like, I don't see it this way, but at the same time, I'm very proud of the way I handled it and I went on. But also how I changed on being that this court case is very heavy on my shoulder, and every time I got a letter, I got a panic attack, and every time Dries Van Langenhove tweeted, I got a panic attack. And I was very focusing on the strategy and the rationality of how to cope with it. But I changed also for me personally to focus on my mental health, to how I'm going to cope with that, and how I'm going to make this court case just one thing of me. So I was very afraid that when people will see me, they will see, this is Jihad Van Puymbroeck of this court case, but I'm more than just a court case. So I also felt that this was important for me, that to tell the world I am a civil party of the court case, but I am not the court case. I am more than that. I am also an expert in anti-racism and inclusive communication. And when people ask me, tell me more about your court case and give a witness about it, I say I'm not a victim only. I'm also an expert of what the structural things is happening, and I will tell this also in this way. And for me, it was also an eye-opener how some things I did to protect myself, even if the public opinion was expecting that I will do it. For example, when the court case date was being told, I was not here in Belgium. I felt very sad that I wasn't there, but at the same time, I got protected because I just did what I wanted to do, focusing on my life, focusing on my happiness. But I see how I now can use everything that is happening to still tell the story and use my voice. And also a lot to youngsters. I work with a lot of youngsters. And for me, this is my strength to tell them, keep doing what you're doing because it's very important. The next generation of activists are very afraid to be an activist in Belgium because of what happened.
Do we have a question, both online and here? If no, I believe some of order. Okay, so Jihad is here. You can still talk to her later on. But then something just came in relation to this question, like you're not just in the history book, but you're also one of the very famous persons in Belgium or across Europe because of this. How are you, or what impact has this brought personally to you and the whole activism realm, let's say in Belgium?
I don't think I see it that way. Yeah, I don't know. I think I was very happy with when the conviction fell, and I had a lot of reactions, a lot of professional activists who sent me a message, thank you for your resilience and to keep doing what you are doing. But I felt that the reactions of youngsters and just women of color, my friends who are not activists, who after 6 years told me we were never aware of the impact it had, thank you, was for me most important because I felt that the activists were already aware of the impact that the far right have. But just a mother or a friend of me who is not focused on anti-racism, doesn't know nothing about it, was actually aware of the law system works even for me, and that's because of what Jihad did.
Finally, it's actually weird that you had to pay over 8,000 euros as a victim, and then the court fines include like 16,000. Was this paid to you or it was paid to the court? Like, what rewards did you have? Because I mean, it's a lot of mental damage, physical damage, resources, and so on. Was there any specific reward for you personally?
Yeah, so with my lawyer, we decided to ask, but I don't know the English word, temporarily €1. We did it strategically. We used just word in the court's justice system. We used the word temporarily just to make sure that the media will never use this against me. They will never use, she did it just to get money, but because we used the word temporarily, the judge said you have still time to decide how much you want to ask of money, of course. And I'm still thinking about it. What is the emotional damage and which price can I take for it?
Should I suggest for you?
So I'm still thinking about it.
You can demand for millions. If you don't need it, you can donate it to activism cause.
Yeah, because
and then you will be empowered to speak more, right?
Yeah, because the fundraising money, I got a lot more than the 8,000, yeah. And we have like an organization, Justice pour Mehdi, and that's an organization when Mehdi is a young boy, Moroccan boy, who got killed by the police in Belgium, and his brother is doing a lot of important work. So I made an arrangement with him when your lawsuit is still also going on. I had the fundraising money, I will give it to other activists.
Yeah, demand the money and distribute it that way. So don't let it go, right?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry to say, but the far-right people, usually they have a lot of money. So we said it's your privilege. Use your privilege. Thank you so very much, Jihad. On that final note, before you clap, let me just say thank you to her again. So as we reflect on Jihad's journey, let us recommit ourselves to the fight for digital landscape where justice prevails over hate, where empowerment triumphs over oppression. Let us as well stand shoulder to shoulder in defense of truth, integrity, and human dignity. Jihad, we are really or deeply grateful for your bravery, for your unwavering commitment to justice, like you said, not for yourself, but for all of us and the next generation. Your story actually inspires all of us to strive for a world where no one is beyond control, where the power of information is harnessed for the greater good. Thank you for sharing your story with us and the world. I mean, for the first time, perhaps outside Belgium. May it serve as a beacon of hope for countless individuals, activists, and victims who actually continue to be confronted with scores of digital authoritarianism and oppressions. Finally, to all of us, let's actually continue our discussion, not just here, with renewed determination and, of course, purpose. Together, I believe we can all build a future where justice, equality, and empowerment reign supreme. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And really, I want to thank you, Jihad, and also Nyima for this great moderation. And I really hope, Jihad, that this will be a moment important for you as well, because I know that is the first time that you speak in English as a keynote in an event about your story to justice. So I hope that this will bring you more and also to story of other people for justice. So thank you so much. And thank you for the moderation. And now I just want to remind you that we have a panel again in 25 minutes. So I ask everyone to come back at 6:40. And we will have a panel also to speak very important stories in Ukraine, Gaza, and Azerbaijan. So please come, and we will go on to speak also about justice in that context. Thank you.